Well, I'm coming to automotive security soon, but I just want to add something about SOTIF. Well, I talked about this false positive. Of course, there's also false negatives. What is this? When we talk about that, there sometimes is confusion. Well, where does it come from? This is a statistical measure we talk about, and there is, of course, when you talk about false positive, we also have true positives. So my example with the child trapping this ball means if the child is really trapping the ball and we perceive this child trapping the ball, the system, let it be the driver or let it be the machine, the artificial intelligence or whoever will detect this scenario, will perceive it, and it has the hypothesis, yes, there is something happening. And if this hypothesis is true, we perceive this scenario and it really happens, then we have a true positive. The false negative will be, we have a hypothesis that is positive, we mean to perceive this child trapping the ball, but this scenario in reality doesn't happen. So it is a false positive. The hypothesis is positive, we think something is happening, but it doesn't happen. And this is called a type 1 error. And of course, then we have this false negative. It's a case, nothing is happening. We have the hypothesis, there is no child trapping the ball, and we perceive it as no child is trapping the ball, but there is also no child trapping the ball in reality. So it's a true negative. And then we have the fourth case of this false negative. And this is called the type 2 error. And it's really critical because we have the hypothesis, no child is trapping the ball. We think there's nothing happening, but in reality, there is a child trapping the ball. And this is a false negative.
Thank you, because I mean, there's this analogy from the machine learning community, like, you know, your spam folder giving you a false positive is better than they're putting your important email in the spam folder, meaning that is false negative. So type 2 is more severe than the type 1, you're saying, yeah. How does SOTIF ask you to deal with such cases? What is the remedy SOTIF is prescribing?
Well, especially there are not specifically the architecture, but the testing. It focuses on testing. So you have to set up lots of scenarios and do testing about these cases. So the problem is you can't get all the cases in reality, and this is not possible. For example, this is one scenario I described with this child and the ball, but there could be several scenarios, such as a sunset, for example, sunrise or sunset, glazing, sunlight, getting the driver not realizing what the scenarios are, and of course these cameras and radars could also be tricked by some effects, shadows, not having the right light. There could be shadows perceived as a real object, and this trapping has to be managed by either the sensors and of course the algorithms behind that. Setting the objects, perceiving the objects, realizing what objects we have, and getting the right destination, getting the right setting between these objects.